Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Shootaround. Right out of the gate, I should apologize for the inconsistency of some of the uploads over here. We're going to try to be better about that, and I think that'll be a lot easier when the playoffs come around, just because there's a lot more to discuss. The goal here was to kind of get the ball rolling on this before the playoffs started so that we'd have a little bit more of an established base rather than trying to establish the podcast right in the throes of that whole situation. But not been much content, and then I've had some poor scheduling issues, and Connor has been strucken with illness.
Yeah, right now I'm fighting the 65 games played rule at the moment. It's been a nightmare over here. I got so I was in OKC for a couple of games. I got to see Shea break Wilt's record, which was super dope. But I got either food poisoning or stomach bug. The jury's still out on which one it was. And then you can probably hear my voice a little bit, and you might see me mute a couple of times for coughing fits. I don't know what's happening over here now, just some kind of like random sickness. So I'm going through it a little bit. So I've been on the IR a little bit. So we're back, hopefully kind of get back into the swing of things. I mean, yeah, the playoffs are right around the corner. I mean, it's crazy that we're obviously the season, it feels like we're kind of in that spot right now, but we're only like 3 weeks away at this point, 4 weeks away.
Yeah, this March and like the first half of April is always like the worst part during the season. Like This is the part of the year every year where I'm like, do I even like basketball anymore? Like it really starts to feel like an obligation after like 60 something games. That's why I've always been in favor of shortening the season, because I'm personally just kind of done with it by the time we get to 60-ish games. And like a lot of discourse will be had about games at the end of the season that very rarely end up actually mattering, so like it doesn't even feel worth getting all engaged in it or whatnot. But today we got to discuss the MVP, because the MVP this year, I went in predicting that this would be the craziest MVP race ever. I thought that Giannis was going to be a bigger part of it. I thought the Bucks would be a playoff team and he would just put up 35 and 15 to do it. I anticipated Jokic being more of a factor. He's been kind of slipping out of it because the Nuggets have been slipping, especially since he's returned. And I expected the usual Shea and Wemby and Luka. Everybody had them going in. But I was expecting this to be like a tight 5-man race, but it's looking like it's becoming like a 2.5-man race. It really looks like it's down to Wemby and SGA. People are putting Luka in those conversations, and I'm like, I'm just not going to give someone the MVP for March basketball personally. If you want to bump him up the ladder, that's fine, but like people genuinely jumping to he should be MVP now, I think that's a little bit of an overreaction. Not that there wasn't reason to consider him that before March, but March is what has lit that fire and really made that such a pervasive narrative. So I guess first, what do you think of the Luka discourse lately?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the MVP race, I mean, if you look at the odds and stuff, it's kind of already over. It's going to be Shea most likely. If the Spurs do take the 1 seed, I think that raises Wemby's shot. Like, I think that's the only way at this point that someone's going to take it from Shea. But with the Luka stuff, I've always thought some of it was overblown. Like there was that crazy like trail of podcasts and media discussions, and everyone was like trying to have a referendum on Luka Doncic around like February because he was struggling. And there was one point I made a video talking about how like, hey, the Luka trade's gotten a little weird because like obviously it's still terrible for the Mavericks, but Luka's also not playing his best basketball, and you have to be a little bit concerned about some stuff. Like there were points where Luka was genuinely struggling over the course of this season, and it feels like with the recency bias, things kind of got erased, and it's like, oh, Luka's been perfect this year. And I do think he's been underrated by a lot of people. I think people got kind of too caught up in the weeds with Luka sometimes, but it hasn't been a perfect season, as amazing as he's been recently. And then, he went through that crazy stretch of like 60 points, and it's like, oh, is Luka the best in the world? Is he going to take the MVP from Shea? And the Lakers play the Thunder a couple times down the stretch. Could that go ahead and swing it? And then Shea's just continued to kind of do his thing. And then Lucas had some rough games last night against the Pistons. Danish Jenkins outdueled him 1v1, which is awesome. Shout to Danish Jenkins, maybe the next Austin Reeves, apparently. But he was incredible. No Cade Cunningham. And the Lakers lose. And now suddenly it feels like that campaign has kind of lost all of its steam. We see this a lot of years where it's like the MVP race feels somewhat decided, or it's just like, we might need another candidate. I always think back to, and I love Chris Paul, but I always think back to like the year when Chris Paul started to get some shouts late in the season for the Phoenix Suns when they were winning. I think it was 64 games that season in like 2022.
Wasn't Kendrick Perkins like the spearheader of that?
Yeah, Kendrick Perkins likes to throw out some darts into the MVP race. It feels like late into some seasons, but it kind of reminds me, not quite the same as that, because obviously Luka's numbers are better, but just where it's like we kind of need to make a conversation, and you and I get it. I mean, we're content creators. Like, it's all about creating a conversation. You need something to talk about when you get to March basketball. And with Luka playing as well as he has and the Lakers surging, it kind of became a topic of conversation. But I don't know. I never really took the Luka MVP stuff very seriously. And it feels like that, now it's kind of dead in the water after that game against the Pistons. But I do think the Wemby stuff, again, I think Shea's probably going to win it. But if there was anybody that could take it from Shea, it would be the Spurs catching the Thunder for the 1 seed, and Wemby, who is building up some momentum and did, kind of deliver what he thinks is his MVP case last night, which I saw some people mad about. I think that's perfectly fine. I think people just like to be mad at stuff. But did you have any thoughts on like Wemby talking about his MVP case? And I know before the podcast you were mentioning you've kind of leaned a little bit towards maybe Wemby recently, at least taking him more seriously as like a real contender for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just that's the more interesting outcome, which I think plays a very big part in the discourse in general. But I also I did want to keep on the Luka thing just for a second, because I had something to add about that as well. Apparently, I haven't looked at it. I've done a better job of like kind of just feeling like none of this matters and I don't care what the comments say, because it's just fucking basketball at the end of the day. But like, I did a video about Luka, and I was like, yeah, the people who were being overly critical were ridiculous. Apparently, I've been bunched in with that group, because I did a video in like January where I was like, yeah, Luka's not as good as he was in 2024, and there's been some problems with his game this year. And like, I guess that means that I think Luka sucks. Like, literally throughout the whole video, I could not have said more frequently that Luka's still a top 5 player, and anyone saying that Nico Harrison was right is an idiot. Like, that was said in that video, but then I make a follow-up video where I'm like, yeah, all of those people were idiots. And like, what do you mean those people? You're those people. No, I'm not. I didn't say any of that. I said he doesn't get to the rim as much, over-relying on the mid-range, too much foul baiting, and his threes are not dropping. All of that was correct. He started hitting his threes. Good on him. But like, I wasn't wrong at the time for there being problems. People act like you criticize a player and that means you hate them.
You say one negative thing and it's like you are now their biggest hater. Like, I had a similar thing where I said he's top 5 and there were comments that were like, top 5, he's 4, he's 3. What are you talking about? You hate Luka Doncic? I'm like, no, like it's just a general, if you don't say exactly what people want to hear, it's you are a hater. Yeah.
No, it's entirely reasonable to have Giannis, Shea, Jokic, and Wemby over Luka. It's very reasonable. I can see a case for Luka over Wemby, but that's about it. Maybe if you want to go on like games played, Giannis hasn't played as much for this season specifically, but all of that aside, yeah, I think just the thing is Luka was already a polarizing player. The trade made him an even more polarizing player, and then the Lakers discourse is always incredibly reactionary in both ways as well, because I think people are also typically overly critical of the Lakers because they're the Lakers and the expectations are higher for that franchise. Like, people were acting like earlier this year that the Lakers were like the most disappointing, biggest failure in the NBA, and I'm like, they're actually about exactly as good as they have any reason to be. This is a roster that their big 3 is pretty damn good and their role player core is okay and the defense is not good. Yeah, it's a 50-ish win team. that's fine. It doesn't need to be bigger than that. Like it's the Lakers, so the expectations are so much higher. But yeah, as for Wemby, again, like I said, it's just the more interesting thing. And also there's, of course, we're both well aware, a very large swath of people who just love to hate on SGA. And I think there are MVPs that happen a lot that are, for lack of a better word, like default MVPs, where it just kind of feels like there wasn't a super strong case in the opposite direction, so it's just kind of like it landed in his lap. I've always felt like James Harden's MVP was like that. I feel like Kobe's MVP was like that, kind of like these obligatory, yeah, it makes sense that it's him here, but it's not like particularly an exciting MVP case. And I think in the case of SGA this year, it's not really that exciting because we've seen him win it at this point. We know what SGA at his peak form looks like, but we always want the new story in the NBA, and Wemby is the new story. Wemby is the guy who has raised his play to superstar level this year, and I have mixed feelings. I definitely lean towards SGA, but I also feel like the market, or whatever the fuck, all the predictions, is largely that 65 game rule, because Wemby can only miss like 2 or 3 games for the rest of the year.
He can miss 2
so I
more.
think, yeah, so I believe I believe that's playing a very large factor in those odds, and that if you tell me that Wemby does not miss the threshold, I think at that point he has a much stronger case. There is also, of course, the fact that the Thunder have not been as good as their 25-1 start, and the Spurs have been surging more. And I think since that start, the Spurs have had a slightly better record. I don't know the exact number there, but I imagine it's probably roughly better. And the fact is, like, SGA's obviously got the higher point production, but people also have this super team narrative behind him, which I think you would agree is especially a little silly this year, given how much the Thunder are dealing with injuries.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I think it's lost a little bit in Shea's case. I mean, this has been the best season of Shea's career. He's putting up, it's crazy that I saw someone showcase, like, people have to put up those stat head graphics, which absolutely never tell the whole story. So it's ridiculous that I see any of them anytime. But it just reminded me that Shea's shooting 55.5% from the field this season, which is ridiculous. 31.5 points a night, a career high 38.8 3-point percentage, or second career high behind that 2021 season where he shot 41%, 6.5 dimes per game, 4.5 boards, and 1.4 steals. The efficiency is pretty much unprecedented for someone scoring this much. His true shooting percentage is only behind Steph Curry when it comes, or unanimous MVP Steph Curry, when it comes to players averaging 30 plus points per game in a season. Like Shea, this is the best version of him we've ever seen, but I think the biggest thing is how injured the Thunder have been. Total games missed this season, only behind the Memphis Grizzlies. And part of that is, I will say, boosted up by like Thomas Sorber missing the entirety of the season and Topic being out for a while to start the year. I do think, Sorber might have made a difference, because we went through some games where Chet and Hartenstein are out. We don't have big men, and I think he could have gotten some decent run, but it's not like quite up to the level of like the Memphis Grizzlies when it comes to the injuries. But the Thunder have been one of the more injured teams in the NBA so far this season. Dubs, hardly played this entire year, just came back against the Sixers and looked pretty good. Chet's missed some time. Hartenstein has missed a number of games with that calf thing he's been dealing with, and Caruso and Kaysen and AJ Mitchell missed like a 20-game stretch. If you go down the list, like, there's so many guys that are so integral to this team's success have missed time, and the Thunder just haven't really missed a beat. They did go through some ups and downs. There was that stretch where it's like, they're kind of 500 right now after starting off really, really hot. But like, since the All-Star break, the Thunder have lost once to the Pistons when nobody played. And it's crazy because the Spurs never lose basketball games, and they've still lost ground since the All-Star break on the Thunder in the Western Conference for 1 seed race, because OKC also just doesn't lose basketball games. Right now, I talked about this a little bit last night in a video I made. Like, it was titled something along the lines of, is the Western Conference Finals already decided? Just basically being like, are we just on a collision course for Thunder versus Spurs in the Western Conference Finals? It gives me a lot of 73-9 Warriors and that Spurs team that went like 68-14 or 69-13, I think it was. Like those two teams that it's just like nobody else is even close to them. And they're just like the two that are running away with the conference over the course of the season. And it felt like they were on a collision course, but obviously, you know, the Russ KD Thunder messed that up. So maybe we see something similar there happen. But those two teams are just so far above and beyond. And so I think it makes sense that it's Shai versus Wemby at this point. And, you know, I could continue to lay out Shai's case. I can talk about a little bit more, but I do want to first give props to Victor Wembanyama, who has been unbelievable this season. I'll be one of the first to admit, I didn't think the Spurs are going to be this good this season. I felt like this was I saw a lot of people saying they were the jump team, but I was like, I think it's going to be one more year. I think they might need one more year for Stephon Castle to develop a little bit, Dylan Harper in year 2 as opposed to year 1. And
yeah, you were saying that they reminded you of the Thunder 2 years ago.
Yeah. It felt like they were close, but not quite there, where it's like, I don't know if they're quite contenders yet, but they're going to start to enter that conversation. And they are like full bona fide, like championship contenders at this point. Like, I think it's impossible to deny that they're just contenders at this moment.
I believe, if not the last pod, the one before it, we debated like who would be the second contender after the Thunder. I think you were on the side of the Nuggets. I was kind of leaning Spurs. At this point, it's Spurs. At least for me, I'm definitely the Spurs are the second most likely team to win it all this year. I want to show you this crazy stat because I didn't actually know Shai's efficiency was quite 55.5% from the field.
It's crazy.
And I was like, I wondered what his 2-point percentage was. His 2-point percentage is 60%. And I'm like, that's also a crazy fucking number. So I went and looked. There are 29 players in the NBA who are attempting double-digit 2-pointers, so 10 or more. If you didn't know what double-digit meant, I know you struggle sometimes. Connor.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's on me.
But literally everybody in that category of 29 players, only 2 of them are more efficient than SGA. Mind you, SGA is taking 15 per game, which is the second highest in the NBA. Only Nikola Jokic and Jalen Duren are more efficient on 10 plus 2-pointers per game. And if we were to limit the scope to just like 12 plus, it's only 2, or it's only 1. So, like, literally, he is in a class of his own. I wonder, there's a good chance he's the only guard who's ever done that. I don't know of any guards who have shot 60% inside the arc on 15 fucking attempts per. Like, that's a crazy
I can't
stat.
imagine it's happened. I can't imagine. Like, I mean, we're talking about the most efficient era of basketball and, like, that level of volume. And that's the thing. I think Shai's kind of become normalized a little bit because it's like, oh yeah, he doesn't miss mid-range jumpers, and he's one of the best rim attackers ever at the guard position, especially. Like, but the numbers are insane. Like, people talk about the true shooting percentage. Like, I bring up that stat only behind unanimous MVP Steph Curry, and everybody's like, but true shooting percentage, it takes into account free throws, and you know how people like to say the thing about free throws. I'm finding it right now in NBA history. Effective field goal percentage, which obviously doesn't include free throws, if you didn't know. The highest effective field goal percentage in a 30-plus point per game season ever. It is unanimous MVP Steph Curry, 2024 and 2025 Giannis, 2021 Steph Curry, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right ahead of LeBron James's highest effective field goal percentage in a season. He's got the 5th most efficient season by that metric of anyone ever scoring 30 or more points per game, which is ridiculous as a guard and up there with Steph Curry out of all people, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, SGA has a 66.6 true shooting right now, so proof that he is demonic. And everybody above him, the 6 players above him, he's ranked 7th, all centers. He has the best true shooting percentage of anyone who is not playing the center position in the entire NBA. That's actually wild. And he's also 18th in free throw rate, just for the record.
Yeah, I really wish that number would come up. Yeah. Shoot more free throws.
Yeah, he shoots the ball a lot, so he gets fouled a lot, but he does not rely on fouls to the degree that people think. He literally is right next to Luka Doncic in terms of free throw rate. But to move the conversation in the direction of Wemby, what I find interesting about Wemby I do think he has a legitimate case, and I do think he will finish second, again, presuming he meets his games played threshold, which I imagine he will. At this point, I can't imagine you're like, yeah, I'm going to miss 30% of the remaining games and lose my DPOY and lose my chance at MVP. Like, I think they do that shit that Tyrese Halliburton did, where they just threw him in there for 5 minutes just for the sake of the qualifier. But the case for Wemby would be that in terms of on-off, there's no one else. The only other guy who's anywhere near his on-off rating is Jokic, and Jokic is not winning it for obvious reasons. Shea is at about a plus 9.5, and that's entirely coming from offense. He's a plus 9.8, and then the defensive difference is basically negligible. For Wemby, the Spurs are 6.6 points better offensively in terms of offensive rating with him on the floor, and they are 9.8 points better defensively when he is on the floor for an overall plus 16.3 net rating. And defensively, literally the 107 defensive rating when he is on the floor is literally better than OKC's defensive rating as a whole. Literally, the Spurs are as good of a defense as anybody when Wemby is on the floor, better than everybody, really. And then a 116.8, that's like middle of the pack. That is a okay defense without him, best in the world with him. And then when you get to the offense, again, it's a middle of the pack offense. And then literally the offensive rating when Wemby is on the floor is better than the Denver Nuggets. So when Wemby is on the floor, the Spurs have the equivalent of the Nuggets offense and the Thunder's defense, which is unbelievable. That is essentially, you might as well be the greatest team of all time by that metric. So that is like a very favorable stat to Wemby. Mm-hmm. But what I find really interesting about his potential case is I'm almost certain this is the case. I haven't actually fact checked it, but I'm almost certain that he would be the only player in NBA history to win MVP while playing less than 30 minutes per game.
That has to be true. There's no way it's ever happened. I can't imagine it. Yeah, I mean, he's ridiculous. Like, he is absolutely mind-blowing. I'm sure some people thought I was going to hop on here and be like, no, Wemby actually sucks and Shea clears and everything like that. I do believe Shea is the best player in the world, but Wemby is someone that has entered that conversation as the third-year player. He is actually one of the single most impactful players I've ever watched. He's the best defensive player I've ever seen with my own two eyes. You know, I'm sure people are going to debate, guys way back in the day. There was already an argument that he might be the most impactful defensive player ever in just terms of like a per minute on the court basis. The amount of times where layups just don't exist in a game for every minute that he's out there, it's crazy. It's like a nightly basis. It was funny. Eric Spoelstra was talking about Bam Adebayo should get more love for deep point and stuff like that. And then last night they played the San Antonio Spurs and Wemby has like 5-6 blocks. And it's like he blocked like a reverse layup after actually jumping on the wrong side of the rim. It is unbelievable the quickness that he has, whether he's on the perimeter, like even if you try and take him off the dribble on the perimeter, because that's been the thing with a lot of bigs. It's the Rudy Gobert thing where it's like, okay, if you get Rudy out to the perimeter, you can make him look silly sometimes. Not as much as people would like to believe, but it is something that's possible. And Rudy's one of the best, most impactful rim protectors ever, defensive players in NBA history. With Wemby, he's just so much quicker and the length is there. He's got such good timing. Like, there were multiple times when they played the Clippers recently where Darius Garland got him out there on the perimeter and he ends up taking a logo three because he just can't get space away from Victor Wembanyama to shoot the three on the perimeter. You can't blow by him because he's going to block you, or you're just afraid that he's going to do so. He has the number one defensive aura that I've ever seen. People are legitimately scared to shoot when Victor Wembanyama is out there. And then offensively, like, that's kind of the only thing that's like holding him back a little bit, is that his efficiency isn't quite there yet. But again, he's in his third season, and the fact that he's already this good offensively in his third year is crazy. I mean, he is an automatic lob every single time. They got him playmakers. Remember the first couple years where it's like they were trying to do point Jeremy Sohan, and it's like, can we get the ball to Victor Wembanyama, please?
Talk about vindication. Talk
exactly.
about me being right about a player the entire time and getting yelled at for it.
Hey, man.
Can't even get minutes on the Knicks, bro. They don't even have a forward.
History will remember you fondly for your Jeremy Sohan takes. 100%. We'll put that on your gravestone. He was right about Jeremy Sohan.
Put it at the top of the list of accomplishments.
Yeah, it's like friend, brother, hater of Jeremy Sohan, and he was kind of right about that. So he's finally got guys that can get him the basketball, and it's literally an automatic lob basically every single time. He is the greatest vertical spacer of all time. There's never been anybody that's just been, his catch radius is absurd. I could probably throw a pass from here to San Antonio and he would catch it and put it in the basket. And I'm in New York City.
The closest to it is Anthony Davis at his absolute best. That's the only thing that gets anywhere near the territory, and like it's still a pretty damn clear difference. He's so damn good at lobs that I'm like, they should do it more. He catches like 2 lobs a game. I'm like, that number needs to be like 6. Just throw him the ball around the rim.
That's how it was last night against the Heat. Against the Heat last night, as I was going through making that video about the Thunder and Spurs, I was going through like his shots, and I was watching that game partly, mainly because I was watching the Thunder game, and it was like it turned into a blowout, so I wasn't paying as heavily as attention as I normally would. But like I go back and look at it, felt like I was like, he got a few lobs in that game. He caught like 6 lobs. I think it might have been like 7 or 8. Like he just couldn't stop catching lobs. And again, it's against a Heat team that's pretty decent defensively. They're good defensively, straight up. They've got Bam Adebayo. Like they have some size, they have some length, and it just didn't matter. And it's Wemby. It's like they throw within 5 feet of the rim and it's going to be a dunk, or it's just going to be he's going to lay it up and in. He is a game-breaking player offensively, even if he isn't as good, as some of the other scorers. Like he's nowhere near as an on-ball scorer as Shea. Like he's nowhere near that level.
For sure.
But in terms of the off-ball,
in the shot creating department, he still has a lot of room to go, but he's also basically the best play finisher that there's ever been at this point already.
Yeah, exactly.
At least in the contention for that, because like how many people can you say are simultaneously a very strong catch and shoot 3 threat and basically as good of a lob target as there has ever been? Anybody who is in those categories in them individually is not checking both of those boxes, or at least they're not checking them as hard as Wemby is. Yeah,
which again is the best lob threat ever and a really solid catch and shoot 3-point guy. Like that's really the main thing that's just holding him back at this point is some of the on-ball stuff. But there's a chance that Wemby just goes down as the best off-ball offensive player ever. Like there's a world where, or especially at the big position, like he could enter that just because he can just dive to the rim for a lob basically whenever, and there's almost nothing you can do. And he evolves more as a catch and shoot 3-point player. He's just getting so much better so rapidly. Like in year 3, it reminds me. Because like when LeBron entered the league, we're not old enough to really remember that. I was 3 years old when LeBron debuted, but I have to imagine this is what it was like when people were like, this guy's got all these expectations, will he match them? And he's matching them from day 1, from day 2. By year 3, he's got the Spurs in a spot that nobody really expected them to be. And that's part of why I'm not an experienced guy. I've said this a million times, but it's like, are they experienced enough? Like they've never been on a run. Can they actually get it done? And it's like, yeah, but they also have Victor Wembanyama, and it's an impact level of player that we've almost never seen. So they could probably just buck that type of trend. All this to say, Wemby is unbelievable. Like he is this truly, I feel like we use the term game breaking too much sometimes. He is a game breaking player, like the definition of that type of guy.
He's the game breaking player.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the first person to share this anecdote, but like I remember like a decade ago there being that meta in 2K to create the demigod 7-2 player who can dribble, shoot, pass, block shots, and it's like, yeah, a guy like that would never exist. Lo and behold, a couple of years later, Wemby shows up. Yeah, to me, it's the reason that I am kind of leaning towards Wemby is that two-way impact. Shea's not a bad defender by any stretch, but like, as you've mentioned, I just can't think of a defensive player that I've seen have this level of impact, this level of deterrence. I believe I saw some stat that was like teams attempt like it was like 12% less shots at the basket than they do otherwise. Like that when Wemby is on the floor, that's a crazy number. Do you know, like people... I see this all the time. People are like, "Oh, the game's all about 3-point shooting now," but it's like number one job of a defense is still to protect the basket.
Yeah, 100%.
It is still that, and he does it better than anybody. I went and saw them play the Memphis Grizzlies in January, and on defense, I was just watching him. I was just watching what happens. And so many times a player would like dribble, start to create a drive towards the basket and be like, ah, fuck, and then dribble away.
Yeah, there
and
he
not
is.
even get like people bring it to like, oh, it's not just blocking shots, it's affecting shots, but like it's not even just that, it's also preventing them from ever even happening to begin with. Like the amount of times, if you watch Wemby on defense, where a play that would end in a shot at the basket does not end in a shot in the basket, it's comical.
He creates so many Nash dribbles. He is the number one generator of Nash dribbles of all time, because guys are like, I'm not even going to try that. Like they will get all the way to the rim, these great like slashing guards or cutters, and then they stop and they're like, oh my god, that dude's 18 feet tall, and then they'll just dribble away.
See hands and shadow over them.
Exactly.
The thing that is also the case with him is that like there's something he does a lot that is basically a fundamental rule of defense that he is breaking, which is like don't turn away from the guy that you're defending, but he will just like spin around and still be there because like he has the speed, he has the flexibility that he can just flip his hips around and be right there perfectly fine without having given up any kind of advantage. Because even Wemby with his back turned, if you shoot over Wemby with his back turned, you're still shooting over a 7-foot guy. Like it breaks my brain. And like obviously you can't say Wemby's the greatest defender of all time in the sense of like you need to have more years under your belt to capture that, but in terms of defensive peak, I have never seen a player more impactful defensively, and he's doing it in the era where it is the most impossible to have this kind of impact on the defensive end. I don't even know what to compare it to. Like the greatest defenders of all time to me are Bill Russell, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Tim Duncan. All respect in the world to those guys. They couldn't do this, not quite like this. It's actually really, really bonkers to me. And like he's about to be leading the league in blocks for like 10 years in a row, straight up. And I was a little worried because he was only averaging like 2.8. But like the last couple of months, he's just been on a tear block.
He's got to be above 3 at this point. Like there's no way.
Yeah,
he
just got to 3. Okay. He just got to 3. But in his last 27 games, he's averaging 3.5 blocks. And if I'm to go to his last 17 games, he's at 4. So yeah, he's just, it's unbelievable. And like as good as those block numbers are, they're not unprecedented. We've had dudes average 4 before, but it's not just about the blocks. It's not just about the shots he makes miss. It's just everything. That's the reason why he has a 10-point swing defensively. That is a crazy stat. It is very rare for someone to make that big of a difference on the defensive end. And it's worth mentioning that the Spurs, other than Castle, there's not like a bunch of lockdown guys on that team. It is him and Castle alone who are like the genuinely great defensive players. I guess maybe Carter Bryant a little bit, but like he's a fringe rotation piece, especially in a playoff setting.
Let's respect the Unicornet. Let's respect.
Unicornet. Wow.
I've heard that one before. I'm not the first one.
Okay. What I love about Wemby is like as ridiculous as he is, like if you just like imagine like his playoff production, you put his per 36 stat, like presuming he plays around that. This guy averages 30 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks.
It's crazy stuff. It's legitimate my career type of stuff. Like we were talking about, like
no,
when you
literally,
make the demigod.
Literally, he's like a good night of steals away from like damn near having a quadruple double on any given night, or not, or a 5x5 rather. But yeah, I assume he will achieve that at one point. I know has he had a 5x5? I think he still hasn't.
Didn't he get one? I'm pretty sure he got a 5x5. He almost had one back-to-back games, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I know. I remember it being almost both times.
He got,
but I could be wrong.
Yeah, he's got 2 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any this year because he's had
fell off.
He had one. He had one versus Utah last season, and he had so he had one against LA as well in his rookie year.
Yeah, and that one in his rookie season,
player.
it was I think the next day he came up like 1 or 2 stats short of a second one back to back.
Yes, he was 1 assist away. 4 assists, 5 steals, 5 blocks.
Which is just so crazy, man. It's super cool to see the rise of a guy like this. Because again, too young for LeBron. Obviously, Jordan was way before either of us were born. But to see Wemby doing this, like he is this genuine generational talent. We've seen, these all-time greats play. Like there's a lot of them playing right now, but nobody that had the hype level of Victor Wembanyama coming in. And to see him not only match that, but like surpass it in such a big way so early on in his career, it's absolutely insane. Like Wemby is one of my favorite players in the NBA, and I know you mentioned going to see him play basketball. If any of you out there are like near an NBA arena and you're thinking about, oh, the Spurs are coming by, should I go to the game? Go see that game. Like genuinely,
there's no one else you should see. There's nothing else that's going to be more of a spectacle. I took my girlfriend because I was like, if you want to see some fucking crazy shit, go see Victor Wembanyama play.
Yeah, I got to see. I went and covered the NBA in Paris games last January, and it was Spurs versus Pacers, and my fiance was there with me, and she's like, "Well, this guy's kind of crazy." He had a stretch where he like blocked a shot, hit a 3, blocked a shot, got a dunk, blocked a shot again, then they got like another transition bucket. It was like completely absurd. And she's like, "This guy's really good." I'm like, "Yes, he is." We keep using the term, but game breaking. And, got to see him in Summer League, and now I've gotten to see him a couple of times. Like, it never gets old. He is genuinely one of the greatest spectacles I've ever seen in sports. Wemby he's an all-time talent. I'm going to be shocked. Again, I don't think he's going to end up winning the MVP this year, but I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't open as the favorite for next season. Like, I think he's got to open as the odds-on favorite to win next year.
Here's a question for you, and I'm pretty confident that the answer is yes, but do you think that by the time both of their careers are said and done that Wemby is higher? This is presuming injuries don't come into play because they have a real chance with a 7'7" guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say no when you think at where Wemby's going to be. How many depoys is Wemby going to win? Like 7, 8. Like there's a real chance that that's the case. Shea might end this season with back-to-back MVPs and back-to-back championships. Like Shea's on pace for one of the best 2-year stretches we've ever seen. And I do think there's a world where Shea and Wemby both retire as like top 10-ish all-time guys if the Thunder continue to sustain this success. And this is going to be, the Thunder and the Spurs, the rivalry that kind of defines the next 5 to maybe 10 years of the Western Conference, depending on how, injuries go and team building and things like that. But they're both such good organizations. I'd be shocked if this isn't a long-term rivalry that's going to be so good for the NBA, so good for basketball to see 2 of these all-time greats and, crazy peak players go up against each other. And of course, there's also Wemby hates Chet Holmgren. There's that little bit of animosity too. And I do appreciate how much Wemby cares as well. Like I mentioned it earlier, people were mad that he's talking about his MVP case. Like, oh, he fell for the bait. Like other MVP candidates wouldn't really talk about this, and maybe not, but I appreciate how kind of candid and open Wemby is. He's like, yeah, I want to win MVP. Yeah, I want to win Depoy. It's weird tie to film stuff because I'm not really into film stuff like that, but I've seen all this stuff with Timothée Chalamet talking about how he wants to be one of the all-time greats and he campaigns like that. And I know a lot of film, I for some reason film Twitter leaks onto my Twitter sometimes, and I see a lot of people being mad about that. They're like, that's not how actors are supposed to act and things like that.
Well, that was a lot of the discourse, was that he was talking like an athlete for the arts.
Yeah, which is kind of the vibe I get with Wemby, which obviously he is an athlete, but it's that want to be great. And I never have a problem with someone just straight out saying I want to be one of the best to ever do it. I think that's cool to just kind of stake your claim. And Wemby's yeah, I think I'm the best in the world. I think I'm the MVP. Here's why. And if you vote for me, cool. If not, then I still want to win a championship. I'm still looking for Depoy. But why would he not talk about why he wants to do this? Why would he not want to be one of those guys? I just think it goes back to everyone being oh, all these things are corny, and being genuine is corny and all that. It's just the want to hate everything.
Corny.
Exactly, everything's corny, and now nothing is.
I don't think there's anything more corny than people who insist on labeling everything as corny, ironically.
Yeah.
I just, I hate that mentality because that's the exact reason that we have so many players who are so fucking PR brained at this point. The guys who do not express how they actually feel almost ever. And when they do, it ends up being scandalous because it's like the first time they've done it, or it happens accidentally publicly. Like, I genuinely resent that mentality. I think it is a far more interesting world to be in where players are just transparent about what they want and why they want it. So, like, I'm good on him for that. I didn't even see that or any of that discourse. But It doesn't surprise me in the least bit that that's how people are reacting, because they're all fucking childish and they don't want to. I don't know. I'm very cynical about the way that a lot of NBA discourse goes down lately. So I just don't care at this point. I've actually started. I'm a decade into being an NBA creator, and I'm just finally like, I don't care what the most uncharitable, ridiculous people in the world think. So yeah, I think Shea is more likely to win it. It makes sense that he would win it. But something that I wanted to get into here, we're just going to do a brief, like, what does a title mean for XYZ. We're probably only going to talk about some of the genuine true contenders. Like, I'm not about to do what does a championship mean for the Charlotte Hornets? Fucking everything. That's the end of that conversation. But something I wanted to highlight with SGA is if the Thunder win the championship this year, and he presumably wins Finals MVP, he will have 2 MVPs, 2 championships, and 2 Finals MVPs under his belt before the age of 27 or the age of 28, which is the Michael Jordan had 2 MVPs, 1 championship, and 1 Finals MVP by the age of 27. So he'll be a championship and an MVP ahead of Michael Jeffrey Jordan. It's pretty good company. It's pretty good start.
It's good company to have, man. I mean, yeah, we're talking about Wemby being an all-time great. Shea's also one of the greatest to ever play the game of basketball, and he's having one of the best peaks we've ever seen. I can throw a couple more quick numbers out there about Shea's case, like, which he is my MVP pick. I mean, I'm sure not a single one of you are surprised to hear that. The odds on that were like a million. Like, if you put like $10 on it, you would owe me like $10 because it was just so ridiculously. Of course, I was going to pick Shea, but I just think all season he's kind of been the standard. A lot of guys have come up where it's like, oh, is it Shea or this guy? Is it Shea or this guy? Is it Shea or this? Like, it's Shea's kind of been the guy all season. Offensively, people are going to talk about, oh, but the Thunder's defense is such a big thing, and it is, but the Thunder, the reason they're able to play such good defenders is because Shea is just one of the best offensive engines ever. His playmaking has taken such a big step forward. He's the most resilient scorer I've maybe ever seen, to the point where, like, there's just basically nothing you can do. And that consistency, that like lack of mistakes, is his superpower. He never turns the ball over. He's got the least turnovers per game right now in a season ever, averaging over 30 points per game. He's averaging 2 turnovers per game as someone that has the ball as much as he does is ridiculous. It's mind-blowing. The efficiency is some of the best ever. We talked about that. The offensive swing, it's, a 113.2 when he's off the court. It's a 121.9. It's like a 9-point swing offensively when he comes back on the court, which is completely ridiculous. And again, we talk about all the injuries, the fact that the Thunder are still the 1 seed, Shea being as consistent as he is and, continuously elevating. Like, he is going to give you the best scoring in the world every single night. And in addition, he's now the clear favorite to win Clutch Player of the Year, because at the end of games, it doesn't matter what coverages you throw at him, he's still finding a way to get the job done. He doesn't turn the ball over in those moments, and it's hit big shot after big shot after big shot. He's just the best scorer on the planet at this moment. He's a plus defensively, and he's just this all-time offensive engine that allows the Thunder to play all these great defenders, that does create this great defense. And of course, he's also a cog in that system. He's not one of the best defenders on the team, but he is a guy that definitely holds his own. So that's kind of the Shea MVP case real quick. And it is crazy to think about, where he and the Thunder will be getting the job done this season if they're able to pull it off again. Where, back-to-back championships, we haven't seen it since 2018. We're kind of in the era of parity right now. And to have a team be able to go back-to-back when's the last time we had a team that won the championship make it out of the second round? It's been forever. Like, the Celtics weren't able to do it. The Nuggets weren't able to do it. It just doesn't really happen. And part of that is how grueling the season is now. We see all these injuries that happen to guys because it's 82 games and it's, you have to fly between the 3-point line and the paint all much more. Like, there's so much strain on your body. Teams and guys, like they break down, and there's just so much talent in the NBA right now. Every year it's like, this might be the team to go back to back, and nobody can get the job done. So I think also getting the job done in this era would go a lot towards what Shai's able to do. This is like his 4th season now of 30 plus points per game on 50% or better shooting from the field. Jordan's the only other guy that's ever done that at the guard position. He would match Jordan in those types of seasons as well. There's surely going to be more of that coming for Shai. There is a world where Shai and Wemby both finish as top 10 players of all time when it's all said.
I was just about to say that. I don't even think I think that is the world, so long as injuries do not get in the way.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see what like top 10 player in the league discourse looks like when I'm like 40 something, because it's going to get really fucking interesting, because Jokic will be able to leapfrog into that conversation. Shai will, Wemby will. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets knocked out, because I feel like the consensus, really the only adjustment to the consensus that has happened in the last decade has been Stephen Curry. Like, LeBron was already pretty much a top 10 player all time before then. At least pretty much most people had him in that conversation by 2016. But like, Steph Curry is the only other guy who has really cracked the general consensus top 15-ish players. And, you know, maybe some people having Jokic higher, some people having Kevin Durant or Giannis higher. But like, for the most part, in terms of like, no one's really going to call you crazy for saying that guy's top 10 all time. Steph's the only guy. And we have 3 different players who have a real shot that by the time their careers are over, they are yet another 3 players who no one's like, you're crazy for that. So yeah, I think that's a very real possibility.
I also want to bring up like Giannis. I mean, if he gets traded and gets to actually go somewhere and compete, like, could he also get there? And it's interesting to think about where Jokic and Giannis might land, because they both right now have the one championship. Jokic has more MVPs. Like, I think most people probably have Jokic above Giannis, or it's relatively close. Like, I wonder where they end up legacy wise. Like, what if it is just the Thunder and Spurs dominating the Western Conference for years? Like, does Jokic ever go somewhere else? He's already into his 30s. Like, where does he land at all time, because he's having one of the greatest peaks ever? Does it get overshadowed by this? I don't know. It's interesting to think about how, like, I genuinely think we could see half the top 10 shifted out by the time, you know, we're, like you said, like, you know, 40 years old, which is in a couple of years for you. But for me, it's like 15 away.
I think Jokic and Giannis need one more championship. I think it's hard to. I don't think there's anybody that people place top 10 who did not have at least 2. Wilt is the only guy, and everybody after that has at least 3. So that I think they need at least 2, even though, you know, you can weigh championships a little bit different based on the context of era, like given how damn difficult it is to repeat. But I just want to speed run through. I also saw this. I was looking at Michael Jordan's totals by the age of 27. He's at about 16.6 thousand points, and Shai so far is about 13.2. That's just because Shai was a lower volume guy earlier in his career, while MJ averaged like 20.9 as a rookie. So I think it's also very likely that Shai, because obviously he's not going to, most likely not going to be skipping 4 different potential seasons of his career, that there's a real likelihood that Shai also finishes as a top 5 scorer of all time in terms of totals. So we are talking about some truly unprecedented talent that will, or unprecedented, or the only precedent that exists is Michael fucking Jordan.
The bald guy in Chicago, yeah.
So I want to run through everybody else in the playoffs, the big contenders, what it would mean for them. Obviously, like I said, with Jokic, a title at this point basically probably gets him into top 10 conversations. For SGA, I think he's already on an all-time great guard trajectory, but I think this, like, people are doing the whole Kobe versus SGA thing already. If this shit happens, like, at the age of 27, without having a Shaquille O'Neal, he already has two championships, 2 MVPs, 2 finals MVPs. Like, I think the path towards him being higher all time than Kobe is like achievable within like 3 seasons from then. I'm sure people will find that blasphemous, but like if we're just talking about pure resume and we're not just adding a bunch of moralizing quantifiers of ethical hoops versus not, then I think that's a very reasonable position. So that's the Thunder and the Nuggets. What do you think a championship would mean for Wemby if he got that shit done in year 3? While also winning DPOY at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, and you would have to presume along the way they probably knock off the Thunder, taking down that team that is, so heavily favored still to win the championship, and Shea, another guy in the best player in the world conversations. I mean, to get the job done, I think most people say Wemby's probably the best player in the world at this point. In his 3rd season with this level of talent in the league, it's mind-blowing to even wrap my head around that. And, Finals MVP, very, very presumable. Like, there's no world where anybody would win Finals MVP over Victor Wembanyama. He could score basically nothing, and the defensive impact is going to be enough to get him that award in that championship series. I think we're already talking about I feel like already all time, this defensive peak. I mean, he could have already had like 3 depoys at this point. He barely lost to Rudy year 1. Last year, he was going to win it if he played enough games. We're already talking about, like, this probably is maybe the greatest defensive peak ever when you take a look at just straight impact and watching the games and what he's able to do. And I mean, already top 50 player of all time, like maybe even higher than that. Yeah. I mean, it depends it obviously depends on like what the
Hall
full
of Famer
run is.
by year 3.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah, probably Hall of Famer with, especially taking into account what he's going to do, like for France coming up in international play as well. Like, yeah, he probably already is a Hall of Famer in his 3rd season. I think getting it done this year, or within like the next couple, like assuming he gets one by like because what is he, like 23 right now? I think 22. I think he's 23.
Something like that.
I believe he's 23. God, we're old. But if he gets the job done like in the next couple of years by 25 years old, I think we're already talking about like, okay, can he catch like Jordan and LeBron? Like that becomes the conversation. I think if he gets it done this year, or even in the next couple, but especially this season, it's like, okay, we talked about him as GOAT prospect. We talked about, okay, could he be the next greatest of all time? We need to start having the discussion about how quickly he can enter those conversations with like Kareem as like the best big to ever do it type of stuff.
Yeah, because Michael didn't win his championship until his 7th season. LeBron, I want to say it would have been 8.
Yeah, because it was
9.
It was 2011, so he was drafted 03, so you have 8 years.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, it'd be 9 because he lost in 2011.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so 9 years for LeBron, 7 years for Jordan, 3 years for Wemby. I mean, fucking Magic Johnson won in his rookie year, so it's like it's not like getting it that early on as a guaranteed number 1 spot. But I mean, also people called him the GOAT when he was retiring, so kind of. Yeah, it just puts him on that trajectory to the degree of like, man, the sky is the limit. I would ultimately predict that Wemby's probably not going to be playing till he's 38. It'll probably, at some point, being that size is going to catch up to him. I'm just hoping that it's long enough period of time that there's a avenue to where he can get in that conversation, at the very least in the conversation of best peaks of all time. For Luka, I think a championship for Luka right now would mean the world. Yeah, I mean that would, especially in Los Angeles, because I mean LeBron gets another one too. Like, if LeBron gets another one, then we like does that change at this point in his career? LeBron is the 3rd option on that team. Like, how much does that actually change people's perspective on LeBron as like the greatest to ever do it? I don't think much. I don't think so either. It is nice to have like, it's only a 1 championship difference at that point. That's a nice thing to add. Yeah, 5 versus 6, it kind of negates that gap a little bit. I think it adds a little bit, maybe gets a few people that are being held over. I'm sure there'd be some debates like, oh, look at LeBron, like Jordan got old and he couldn't get it done, and then LeBron's old and he buys into this 3rd role and gets it. Like, we'll see all that. So we would see all that stuff. Yeah, on like but a first then take. Michael Jordan was on the Wizards, bro. That is also fair. Yeah, the Wizards tax is something important to consider here. But like for Luka,
I mean, it does everything for him, because right now it's like he came into the NBA and from day one, it's like Luka Doncic is like the next guy. He's here. And then, Jokic has done a lot. Jokic won multiple MVPs and he's won a championship. Shea came in as another guard in his conference and Luka beat him in a playoff series, but now Shea got a championship and he's got the MVP that Luka doesn't have in a finals MVP. Like Luka's kind of being left behind a little bit in terms of individual accolades by his peers. And this would do a lot for, trying to maintain and stay with that group. And he feels like he could also go down as like a top 10 talent ever if he could just get some championships, get some MVPs, but he's got to start soon here because it feels like Wemby is going to start racking these up and Shea's not going anywhere and Jokic isn't going anywhere. He's kind of become like the stepchild, it feels like, of the Western Conference a little bit. If he were able to get one done and lead Los Angeles to it, and I think for them to win it all, Luka has to go completely berserk offensively because that defense is just not going to hold up. If he averages like 35, 40 points on crazy efficiency and they win a championship, they might build a statue outside of Crypto.com Arena like tomorrow. It might be, they'd say Rome wasn't built in a day.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Like a moment that the final buzzer sounds.
Rome wasn't built in a day. The Luka statue will be built in about 37 minutes. Like it'll be like that. It's just done. It would do so maybe the most for almost anybody if Luka got one.
Yeah, I think Wemby is the only one that couldn't you get anywhere near the level of it mattering so much because of just the long-term trajectory there. But like to go from traded unjustifiably to slandered unjustifiably to fuck you, Nico, and everybody else, I just won a championship. We're also talking about divorce Luka here. Like, dude's been killing it ever since that went down. So like maybe he has that fire underneath him to make this happen. So yeah, there's Luka. Anthony Edwards, what would a title mean for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would also mean a lot for Ant. Minnesota's never gotten the job done. And he's kind of feels like he
becomes a god in that city if he wasn't already.
Yeah, and it feels like he's kind of been forgotten a little bit. It's, again, we talk about Luka a lot and Shea, and we talk about the top 5 to 6 players in the NBA. Like top 5, it feels like it's in some order: Shea, Jokic, Wemby, Giannis, Luka. Ant feels like he's kind of right there on the cusp as like maybe number 6.
It's between him and Cade Cunningham for me.
Yeah, it's like those types of guys. And, if like Kawhi Leonard, if we're just talking this season, has been that level of guy. Tatum, if he's able to, get back to the Jason Tatum that we know eventually, he could be in that type of conversation.
Tatum was that obligatory, like, second tier superstar right after the top, like, Luka, Jokic, and Giannis. Like,
yeah, that's kind of where I always
had him as high as 4th.
Yeah, Tatum, it was kind of like we have like our top 3 to 4, and then it's like Tatum and Embiid when he was healthy was also, in that top conversation, but then he got injured a little bit. It's like, okay, maybe he's more like 4 or 5, but Tatum maybe. But like Ant is right there outside that group looking in, trying to get into that conversation. And if the Wolves were able to, no one's really talking about them all that much. They were kind of counted out as making the conference finals again last year. They got the job done. They made it there. Sure, they got squashed for the second year in a row in the conference finals. But if they were able to get back there and this time get the job done, I mean, right now, seeding wise, it would be against the OKC Thunder. To knock off Shea in that matchup, Ant versus Shea, would do a lot for his perception. And I mean, again, he becomes a god in Minnesota. And suddenly we're talking about what type of all-time trajectory Anthony Edwards is on. I don't know if he's going to get as high as some of those other guys that we've been talking about, because
it's another one where it jumps him into the top 50, though.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and that is a big jump starter to the point where maybe he gets more love for like MVPs and stuff going forward. And I mean, winning one with Julius Randle as his second option. I mean, honestly, you think about what it does for
anyone with Rudy Gobert.
I was going to say, you think about what it does for Rudy Gobert's legacy. Like, he's vindicated all of a sudden. Like, suddenly it's not, Rudy was one of the best defenders ever, sentence. But it's like, could they actually win? Like, he was limited. Like, winning one with Rudy Gobert, he turns around, hits a game-winning midi over Jalen Duren or, Neemias Queta in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and it's like, whoa, Rudy's that guy? It would change everything.
Houston Rockets, Kevin Durant, or the Şengün.
Man, it would. I mean, for KD, it does a lot for him too. Honestly, Kevin Durant might also have one of the highest amounts to gain from a championship this season. Like if the Rockets,
it's not going to happen, but
yeah, absolutely not going to happen. But with all the turmoil they've been through, if for some reason KD just gets the job done, like I can only imagine the stuff we're going to see on Twitter from him. I have to imagine he's got the craziest receipts bookmark folder you've ever seen on Twitter.
Yeah, maybe he creates a meta. Maybe that's the new meta is to shit talk your teammates in a group chat, leak it, and then everybody's motivated and you win a title.
Hey, Jordan punched Steve Kerr in the face and they won titles. It might just be the mentality.
This is just the modern version of that.
Exactly.
Instead of punching him, you call them the R word in a group chat.
The modern version of punching someone in the face is just that, apparently. It would do a lot for Kevin Durant to win it as like the clear number one guy, as opposed to, Steph Curry, 1A, 1B situation in Golden State. But it is far fetched. And I mean, Şengün is like, hey, look, I'm actually baby Jokic now. I have a championship, I guess. I don't know what it does for him all that much.
No, I don't think it does that much. No more than it really did for like Pau Gasol. I'm just gonna run through. There are 4 potential contenders in the East to me. The Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, another top 50, but not like we're talking about suddenly top 15, 20 conversations. You're still going to need to do more, but it would certainly be a lot. The Detroit Pistons, obviously, he would be beloved in that city because we're talking about a team that hasn't won since 2004. Cleveland Cavaliers, James Harden means the whole fucking world. That's another one that's like really big deal for that player's legacy.
Yeah, I mean, Harden suddenly, it gets rid of all the things around him. It's like he came in mid-season and was presumably in this run would be a massive difference maker in winning a championship and like getting the Cavs over the hump and getting the first one that the Cavs have had without LeBron James is a huge deal. A different James, a certainly bearded James again, but a harder one. That was bad. James Harden getting the job done. It'd be crazy to imagine like a almost 40-year-old James Harden, finally getting the championship here in Cleveland out of all spots. And also I feel like Donovan Mitchell, it does a lot for him. I feel like he's just kind of become like, oh, he's the make it to the second round guy, but never get the job done. Maybe he makes it to a conference final someday. But like, I think a lot of people are kind of out on Donovan Mitchell as ever being the top guy in a championship team, it feels like. And I
think it's just disingenuous. He's never had anything more than an okay supporting cast. Like the Cavaliers supporting cast this year is pretty good, but we're not talking about an all-time cast that, he's just dropping opportunities for. Basically every time he's been in the playoffs, it was not his fault that they lost basically in any capacity.
Yeah, I agree.
The year where like they got cooked by the Clippers, that wasn't really on Donovan Mitchell, and that's really the only year where the Jazz were anywhere near contenders. And then last year the Cavaliers were just hurt like really bad. So I've been working on a Chris Paul video, and it really drives me crazy when people will hold that over somebody who like truly had very limited opportunity to begin with. Like people act like Chris Paul has had like 15 different seasons that he could have won a championship, and you go and look and it's like 4 and none of them was at anywhere near them being a favorite. I think Donovan Mitchell is falling into that same category of like, it's not his fucking fault. It's not his fault. But yeah, that'd be nice for him. Similar thing with Cade, similar thing with Anthony Edwards. It's like, yeah, big boost, but not anything that crazy. Very big for the Cavaliers to win another title, to win one without LeBron, to have done it within a decade as well, or basically exactly a decade of like literally. I thought when LeBron left the Cavs, I was like, yeah, they're probably not going to win another championship again for 30 years.
Yeah.
Unless they just really get lucky. But they've done a really good job constructing this roster. They've made a lot of really well-calculated decisions, and I liked the James Harden trade. So the Cavaliers, I think they have a real shot. For the Knicks, Jalen Brunson gets the key to the city. And is the greatest Knick of all time, and it's not even close. People stop replying with the nails emoji on every single cat post.
Yeah, those edits finally stopped for Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah, I mean, living here in New York City, I can't even imagine the scenes of what it would be like if the Knicks got the job done. I mean, it's like they, even if they're like last year, they were in the conference finals, and I'm seeing a Knicks jersey, a jacket, a hat, like every few steps that I take. And I really would have loved to get to one of those games. Unfortunately, a single ticket literally would cost me 18 of my organs that I cannot afford to lose. But I want to try and get to a Knicks playoff game because the atmosphere just in general there is special. I was there when they played the Thunder this year, but also when they played the Lakers, and that was cool to see LeBron play potentially his last game at MSG. But it feels like he's probably going to play another season, potentially with Cleveland. You know, maybe next year we're seeing the two Jameses team up that I was talking about earlier. But for the Knicks,
I really want that story so bad. I want that so bad.
It feels
it's
like
my
it's
basketball fan fiction. It's the one that I need to happen.
That's your basketball Yowie. Is James Harden and LeBron James?
I'm surprised you know that word.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to throw a wild card in here. Joel Embiid, Philadelphia 76ers. That's his 2011 Dirk run.
Actually. Right, would be maybe the greatest legacy shifter out of all of them. Like,
yeah, I think it's number one. I think it has to be number one. I don't think there's anybody who would benefit from it more.
Paul George would get one as well. Like PG and Embiid both getting one. Like that right there, that like is enough legacy shifting to like actually cause the league to like collapse and crumble in front of us. If Embiid and Paul George got a ring in the same season.
I don't know that it does that much for Paul George, honestly.
I think it does a lot.
Point that he's just a role player now.
But then you don't have to hear, playoff P, podcast P, like performance enhancing P. Like you don't got to hear all that anymore if you're Paul George, which is great, because I've always been a bit of a Paul George guy. Yes, there have been bad moments for him for sure, but like, Paul George has never been like the biggest reason why teams have lost on runs and things like that. And I think that 2021 year where the Clippers
the Clippers to their first ever conference finals.
Like they lose Kawhi
on his own, no Kawhi
against the Jazz. And like they put up a real fight. They went to 6 games against the Suns in that series. Like PG was unbelievable in that series. I think Paul George has always gotten too much hate. I believe the same thing for Joel Embiid. But yeah, if Embiid was able to just lock in and, like they're the 8 seed, they knock off the Pistons and they just go on this run. Even if Embiid made it to a conference finals, it would shift his legacy so drastically to the point where we're no longer here, because there's a chance he retires and never makes it to one. And for the rest of our lives, it is like 50 years in the future, and it is GTA 9 before Joel Embiid conference finals, and he is 68 years old. Like there is a chance that that's the point that we reach if Embiid just never makes it there. Even making it that far would change everything for him.
And then last we have the Celtics, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. I feel like it's, I don't know. I guess it's a big boost, but also people just inherently hate on the Celtics. I don't know that they would give them enough credit for it.
I think it adds a lot to Tatum coming back from the Achilles midseason and getting the job done. Honestly, I think it does the most for Joe Mazzulla. I feel like if they win it, it's like Joe Mazzulla is just one of the best coaches to maybe ever do it. Like being the coaching job that I don't know who's your coach of the year, because mine's Joe Mazzulla. I don't know who yours is.
Mine was Joe Mazzulla. The most common answer that the odds suggest it'll be Bickerstaff, but Mazzulla to me was more like, wow, I cannot believe the Celtics are top 5 in offense and defense without Jason Tatum. Well, obviously we've seen them be good without Tatum in the past, but like this consistently for this long. And then like he also adjusted. I reference it all the time, but it's like genuinely such a great thinking basketball video that made me really rethink Celtics basketball. And like Joe Mazzulla did a great job of adjusting the offense to Jaylen Brown's strengths, like letting Jaylen be an ISO scorer and not being like, no, you're the point forward now, even though that's just not him. So like that's something that I respect out of head coaches a lot, that I think it's underemphasized, is like flexibility. Like a lot of coaches, like a big thing that people hated about Mike Budenholzer in Milwaukee was like, he just was like, this is the game plan and we're sticking to it. So I think Mazzulla is my coach of the year personally as well.
Yeah. And I think, you also not, in addition to not having Tatum, Drew's gone, Horford's gone, Porzingis is gone. Like they lost major pieces. And
it's just not that great of a team outside of their top three guys.
It's not, but everybody is just elevated. Like Hugo Gonzalez is giving them real competitive minutes in his first season. And Jordan Walsh has become this really solid role player. Like it doesn't matter who you put out there. You and I could suit up for the Boston Celtics tomorrow and we're both hitting like 3 threes and playing really good defense in like 15 minutes per game. Like it's crazy. Like,
I don't know about that. I worked out for the first time in like 3 months the other day. And I could barely get out of bed. I don't think I could hit a corner three to save my life right now.
Hey, but when you start working with Joe Mazzulla, we'll see. Because he's going to be showing you like war footage in your workout and you're going to be like amped up. You're going to be ready to go.
He's going to do that shit that Kobe did where he was like watching how sharks hunt.
What was the thing where like, didn't Joe Mazzulla take them to like a scenario room or something as well? Like Joe Mazzulla did something insane. Wasn't he like playing like, he showed them like images of like bears hunting or something like that. I think he did something very similar. Absolute psychopath.
That's something that Phil Jackson would do. Phil Jackson always brought like really unconventional shit to the table. And like I know like he was known as the Zen master, but like he would I think he literally would like take them on these like spiritual retreats. He's like, you got to get in tune with your chi, bro. You can't hit your jumper if you don't got your chi.
That's true. Open the 8th chakra. The 8th chakra is the one that gets you buckets. That's kind of what everyone knows when they're working with chi. Yeah, I mean the Celtics. I think Joe Mazzulla. Suddenly, it's like, hey, is Joe Mazzulla one of the best coaches to ever do it? Because this type of baseline into parlaying it into like an actual championship run would be crazy.
All I know is the NBA put a top 10 coaches of all time list out when they did the 75, and Doc fucking Rivers was on that list. If that's the standard, Joe Mazzulla is probably arguably already a top 10 coach of all time. But at the very least, yeah, that would get the job done. Because, I mean, his coaching job in 2024 is more impressive than Doc Rivers in 2008. And, like, otherwise, his playoff resume is just blowing 3-1 leads.
Which is kind of, I mean, he's known for something. He's memorable. Do you remember Doc Rivers?
Do you remember that fucking quote? It's maybe my favorite quote in sports history, and I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but it was essentially like, every time I blow a 3-1 lead, nobody gives me credit for the 3 games that we won.
It's like, inherently they are when they say that you got the 3-1 lead. Inherently you are getting credit. The issue is
they're saying the 3. That's the number. That's the first number.
Yeah, 3 is the number of the wins that you got, and then 3 is the number of the wins that the other team got in a row when you blew the 3-1 lead. Like it's, I thought you were.
It's just absolutely crazy because he's done it 3 fucking times.
3. There it is again.
One time is bad. 2 is really bad. 3 is hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, hey, this year we're talking about the Bucks randomly make it to the playoffs. They go up 3-1 on the Pistons and he blows another one. There's time. There's still plenty of time for Doc to add another one to his resume, and he moves up the coaching list. There's still plenty of time. I thought you were going to bring up the quote that he said with the Sixers when they were they were losing games that they shouldn't, and they weren't playing as well as they should. And he told them to stop playing with their meat, and he meant like stop playing with your food, but he said meat instead. And it's like, Doc, what are you talking about? He's one of the funniest quote guys of all time.
Oh, 100%.
It's incredible. Shout out to Doc. I hope Doc Rivers keeps a job forever. I hope just until he's like 80 years old, team's high. It's amazing content to get Doc Rivers. It's made me sad the Bucks have been so irrelevant this season because I haven't gotten to see enough from Doc Rivers. I hope that Giannis stays and suddenly they're relevant next year and they get like a top pick or whatever. And we're getting to see a lot more Doc Rivers quotes because it's one of my favorite things in the NBA when we're getting Doc Rivers content.
Yeah, when I did a video reacting to him getting signed by the Bucks, and it is the 4th best performing video on my second channel ever.
That's actually incredible.
It's titled "Why Do Teams Keep Hiring Doc Rivers?" That's it.
I'm telling you, he moves mountain. He's got motion. You might not love the fact that he's blown 3-1 leads. You might not love the fact that he's got 1 championship and it was off one of the best teams assembled in Celtics history. But you got to respect the fact that he keeps a job and he's got motion. He's going to get you some views. which is what it made me sad when Nico Harrison got fired. Because I could talk about the Luka trade a million times and Nico Harrison, and every single time it's like views. I need someone to hire Nico Harrison again. Nico Doc Rivers team up.
You're going to be holding your breath on that one, brother. No one's doing that.
The Nico Doc Rivers team up is coming. The Kings will make a decision.
This is like Avengers Assemble, but just the worst version.
Yeah, the timeline where Thanos smothers them into the ground, and they have a 3-1 lead and they blow it. Yeah.
You had a 3-1 lead on Thanos, and you blew it.
They did.
God damn you, Starlord.
Yeah, exactly. Is Starlord the Doc Rivers of the MCU? Have we talked about that? No.
You wanna? This is for the people who made it to the very end of the episode, because it's not basketball at all. But I, especially back then, like got really up in arms. I used to be really into the MCU, and then the end game came out, and it's like, okay, I'm done with this. It served its purpose in my life. I don't really care anymore. But after Infinity War came out, and that happened, everybody's like, Chris Pratt blew it, or Star-Lord blew it, and I'm like, did you not hear what the fucking wizard who can see the future just said? He said there is only one timeline where it works. So clearly, because it fucking worked, the timeline required Star-Lord to punch Thanos in the head for no fucking reason. So like, yeah, was it stupid? Yes, but it was the stupid thing that had to happen. That's the logic.
It's classic. People don't want to respect the process. They just want instant results. You know, you got to wait for the process to play out. Sometimes you've got to make a decision that kills billions of people, so then the billions of people can get unkilled. Like, we've all had to make a decision like that in our daily lives. And so it was just his time to go ahead and do that. And people are acting like it's not something that we always do.
You got to be pragmatic. You
got to just kind of lock in like that. It's like sometimes you got to give up a bunch of draft capital to bring in a top piece, and it works. The Raptors made a gamble on Kawhi Leonard. Peter Cole punched Thanos in the face and got billions of people taken out. It's basically the same exact type of decision. And Kyle Lowry is basically the Doctor Strange of that Raptors team. I don't know where that connection came from, but that's why I decided.
It feels right. No, but I legitimately would get like bent out of shape on the logic of like, he said only one timeline works, so that means literally anything the characters did is not a mistake.
Yeah. I understand people being mad about it, but it's like, there is a time traveling wizard. Like, listen, y'all, we are in a world where there is a time traveling wizard who is sitting there looking through billions of scenarios, and he's like, there's one where we win. And at the end of the movie, as like everyone starts to fade away, he goes, like, this is the only way. He says this is the only way that it could happen. And everybody's like, why'd he punch the dude in the face? Why'd he punch Grimace? Like, well, bro, he had to.
Well, the funny part is he said the part where there's only one outcome literally right before they fought him. Literally minutes before that's where Quill punched him. So, yeah, that's the classic just getting way too caught up into something that doesn't matter. You don't need to get mad about this, but I did. I was 19 and I was pissed off.
I think it's healthy to have something that doesn't matter in your life that you get bent out of shape over. I think that's important. I feel like you got to have that one thing
it
where it's
on
like,
the degree.
That's true. I mean, when it's something as like harmless and innocuous as like the MCU, which also was very into, a little bit less so now, still into it a bit, but I used to watch everything religiously, like right as it came out. I was there Endgame premiere night, like the earliest possible showing, with like 15 of my friends from my dorm. That was my first year in college, and we were all like super into it. Like now it's like, I'll go see the movies, but like sometimes I'll miss it in theaters and I'll watch it when it comes out later and stuff like that. But I was also very into it, and people want to talk about the video of me crying when the Thunder were, winning the NBA Finals or winning Game 5 at that point. If there were a video of my reaction in the theater when like Cap got that hammer and like the final 30 minutes of Endgame, bawling like a babe, I'll straight up admit it. Yeah. Who cares? Y'all see me cry online. Same, I was sobbing.
Dude, one of my first memories in my life, because like obviously most of you have some shit before you're 8 years old that you can remember, but like in terms of very specific memories, when I was 8 years old watching Iron Man 1 in theaters, that is one of the most distinct memories from before I was like 12 years old in my entire life. So like when he spoiler alert, guys, when Tony dies at the end, I was bawling because I'm like, my childhood hero. I saw his first movie when I was 8, and now I'm 19 or 20, and it's so sad. I have made this claim before, everybody has, but I don't think I'll ever have a better movie experience in my life, because it was such the crowd being involved in the way it was. The crowd being involved in a movie can often be annoying. In this particular context, it was just like, it was like a group catharsis. It was watching people who were invested in something for a decade finally seeing it come to pass. And I just don't think there's any way that can be replicated in film ever again.
Yeah, because it was the first thing to ever kind of do that. Like, I mean, that many movies spanning that long of a time, and just the perfect moment, especially because, like, I look at it so fondly too, because it was right before COVID. Like, that was a special moment where it's like, oh, everybody's together. Like, 2019 was so sick, and then 2020, it's like, things are getting bad. But it
was the end game.
It was.
They called it.
There was only one way, and it was a global pandemic. But no, there's a reason why, like, it is my favorite movie of all time, and I don't know if anything's gonna knock it off. It's not the best movie I've ever seen, but just
Endgame.
It is, yeah. Like, it is
Infinity War is better
as a movie. Yes, it is better, but just straight up in terms of my favorite, like. We're talking NBA teams. Like, last year's Thunder team is my favorite team ever. They're not the best team of all time, but it's got such a special piece of my heart that, like, it's gonna be hard for anything to ever knock Endgame off that pedestal for me. So, like, it's, you know,
I'm curious now, because I have a list of my ranking of favorite movies. I have Infinity War 13.
Okay. Are you just on Letterboxd?
No, I have this in a notes app.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's much more rootsy.
I don't even think I don't have it ranked on here. It's interesting. Endgame to me is the most like the criticism that it's just like a roller coaster rather than a movie itself. That's the one that's most like that. But you know, it's just a different thing. It's a different experience. I have not watched them in a while. I've been meaning to, but it's just like, yeah, let's do a 6-hour undertaking real quick.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through again. And I've watched it a couple of times, you know, since I watched it in theaters, and obviously it's like way better watching it in that, like, again, that's like the best viewing experience I'll ever probably have for a movie. But I don't know, man. I'm just such a sucker for like a good ending. And I think they did such a good job of wrapping it up, and like just being there with everybody like that. I was there with my now fiance, but we had been dating for only like a few months at that point, girlfriend at the time, Sophie, shout out to Sophie. And so like it was with her and some of my best friends, and it was like towards the end of my first year of college. I'm like, wow, everything's so great. And then the world kind of came crumbling down from there with the global pandemic. But it was awesome. So yeah, I guess Endgame player, NBA player comparison, go.
Endgame, feel like Endgame was 98 finals. Michael Jordan takes the shot, hits it, and then he goes to the Wizards, and that's phase 4 of the MCU. And it's like, let's just pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, we had the storybook ending. Very good comparison. I've got no notes.
There have been good movies in the phase 4, but it's they're fewer and far between. Thunderbolts is really fucking good.
Yeah, that was really good. The Last Guardians was really good. Guardians 3 was really good.
Oh yes, I thought the title was The
Last Guardians.
Like, what the fuck is that shit? Yeah, no, that was great. James Gunn does not miss.
No, he doesn't.
Now that I'm here, I'm like, how many fucking MCU movies do I have in my top 50? Not many. I'm looking forward to the new Spider-Man.
Yeah, trailer looked really good for that. No Way Home was really fun. I haven't watched that like outside of a theater. I feel like it probably doesn't hold up as well outside of a theater, because that was another one where it's like, that's such a fun theater thing.
It absolutely doesn't. Like at all. The thing that's really funny about it is there are like pauses. Hello, did you disappear?
I had to blow my nose.
There you are.
Okay. I didn't want people to have to see that.
There are pauses in the movie where it's like a applause break. Like Andrew Garfield comes through the circle.
I've seen that clip,
like,
yeah.
Okay. like clearly the crowd is supposed to be cheering right now.
Yeah.
And when you watch it in person, it's fucking, or not in the theater, it's goofy as hell. But it's a cool theater experience. Again, along that same vein, I don't really think there's any other movies that do it like that. I think when it's done well, it's great. The only issue is that it's become like such a thing that gets copycats and people are trying to do the same shit.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, we can just keep this conversation going and make this the Patreon. Okay, everybody. So from this point on, we started talking about movies and nonsense and like Cameron Bairstow and 2016 free agency contracts. So if you want to watch that bonus footage, that is available over on Patreon. You can join for $1 a month. Hopefully there should be 4 of these a week if we get our shit together. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, subscribe, and all of that. Go check out 3Cone's channel. And yeah, peace.